You want me to start us?
Action.
Action. Hey everyone, it's George and Tom and George with Talking Investing. We're just talking investing. It's just we forgot the G. Tom can't spell. Actually, I can't spell, but this was the easiest way for him to get to the front of the pack under the investing channel. So Tom, take it away. What's going on with Bitcoin today?
Good day. Good day. I assume everybody had a good day. Although the Bitcoin miners didn't do what they should have done necessarily. But hopefully the Bitcoin chart is... No, I gotta get over to... All right.
Yeah, it makes me so frustrated in being the seasoned not investor that I am. Just I'm a new investor. Everybody, I've only been trading for a year. This is not financial advice, and Tom kind of gives me some guidance on what we should do, on what companies to buy and sell. So that's why he's here today, and it's driving me nuts because I thought for sure that just probably like 30 minutes ago, that we would be setting a new record on Bitcoin pricing, but the day's not over with yet. It looks like it's getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm thinking that there's some crazy stuff getting ready to happen. What's up with this ETF thing though, Tom?
Oh, you want to start with the ETF?
Yes, let's go. Or you take it, go back to what you were going to do.
All right, well, let's just talk price for a second here. So we were just at 64,000 exactly. We're there again. So yeah, we were rushing up to let's see what this candle got to, 64,367, and so we're about. Oh, where did George go?
Oh, I hid myself. I had to burp. I didn't want to do it on TV.
Oh, that's tremendous. Congratulations. All right. All right. So we're hanging out around 64,000. So I did a video this morning where I created this purple line right here. And as I was saying it, I said we'll probably break through that today. And however, we actually pulled way back in the next half an hour. So it looked like we were going in the wrong direction, but we turned back around and broke through 63, and then we broke through 64 as well. So this was a huge day for Bitcoin. Those were nice barriers to break through. The only thing left now is to get the all-time high, which I'm calling it 65. It's a little bit under 65 is the all-time high.
Oh, you're not calling it 65? You're calling it under 65?
Well, I think it was just under 65 was the all-time high, but we got to break through 65,000. Then that's when we can celebrate.
So, we're starting to see some movement in Bitcoin. It's starting to, we're starting to see what we came here for. So what in the world, when do we start to realize that Bitcoin is caught up to the miners, and when does that start to slow down, that we see this growth? Or do you think you'll continue to see the growth go up and up and up here for the next little bit?
Well, I think
what I'm saying is, when do you take profit off the table?
Everybody, everybody's got to make their own decision when to take profit off the table, but that should be something that people have a plan on. You should not just count on a 100% bull market every single day forever. Even inside of this giant bull run, we've had days or weeks where we pulled back. In fact, we had the month of September that was like a train wreck. So, that was, if you didn't take profits before that, you had to weather the storm, and sometimes that's going to happen too. For me, most of what I have is buy and hold, and I don't think we've really even gotten going yet. So,
talk to me about one of our favorite stock, Cleanspark.
All right, let me see. I think
Cleanspark, probably the most green. Would you say that's the greenest? Would you say that's the most green company out there?
They're very green, and the
Okay.
other half of their business revolves around, energy efficiency and that kind of stuff. So it's a very green company. I don't know. Everybody tries to lay claim that they're the greenest company, and I
will tell you that I know a little bit more about Cleanspark just because we got an opportunity to bid out an electrical contract. They're putting in. They happen to be in Atlanta, Georgia. I am in Atlanta, Georgia quite often. That's where I used to live before I moved to Florida. And we bid out a contract to install a whole bunch of solar panels. I mean, a whole bunch of solar panels. So where do you think, where should we start thinking about with CleanSpark?
So Cleanspark, we just got. I've had this line here. Let me stretch this out a little bit. I've had this line at $15.68 pretty much since I started doing videos. So we were below that at some crazy numbers. So this is one of the ones. There's 3 or 4 that I just overbought into. I don't like to get my positions too big, but there were 3 where I got an oversized position just because they were so unbelievably, ridiculously low priced. So there's one where I've taken some of my profits to get back to a normal size position on CleanSpark. But I still hold what I consider a full position on this because I think it's just getting going. So if there's a pullback, I'll do the same thing. If this goes back to 13 for some reason, I'll double down again.
I have to say this because no one got it from the last stream. Nobody picked the stock that we think of these. I'm looking at your screen right here to the right, Tom, with a whole bunch of Bitcoin mining. There's one company up here, guys, that Tom thinks is not going to hold even their little bit of a down day today. And he wants you to be really careful of it. But please subscribe, like it, and see if you guys can guess what it is. So talk to me about Greenidge. Do you think we're at the bottom? I see Greenidge keep going down and down and down. Is that just a long-term play?
I've been saying
don't get the hate going.
No, listen, I've been saying for about a week. I think Greenidge is going to settle in somewhere here at $22 to $23. It's down today to $22.70. Oh yes, PGOPAL6. Was it any? And the answer is yes, it's any.
It is any. Tom, why don't you explain real quick, and before we do the deep dive, Tom's going to actually do a video on any, and but kind of tell us what you're thinking, what's going to happen with any. This is a crazy one. This is another Greenidge, by the way, guys.
I'm going to do another video on any. I did one a few weeks ago, and some big stuff has changed in the middle, so I really want to update this. For those of you that were involved in the support.com Greenidge merger, that was a nightmare, disaster. And I did a video on that before any of that happened because it was just, that was an extremely complicated deal. And it was so complicated, I just felt the casual investor would have a very hard time. I mean, I read through all the SEC statements to figure out what was going on. And, you know, hopefully, I'm sorry if any of you guys were in on that. That did not go well. It was down 80 or 90% in a very short period of time.
Tom called it the day before it happened, just so you guys all know.
I made a video before that, a couple days before that happened, warning that I think we're, you know, an 80% pullback I was expecting over some short period of time. I was not expecting it the next day, but it pretty much happened the day of the merger. It immediately tanked. So that was a disaster. A lot of times as these mergers come close, stocks start to rally. And with support.com, it was also kind of a meme stock, so it had rallied to points that were ridiculous. So if you did the math, it was unsustainable.
You know what? That's real interesting, Tom, because I think right there is a good point in that we always forget this when we're doing. Unfortunately, this is like football. And you know, we're always playing against somebody. Can you explain that a little bit better? What I mean by that, and explain to me how hedge fund managers work.
Well, we're the opposite of the hedge fund managers. We're the retail investors. So, you know, we spend, even those of us that, some of you may have a lot of money, you know, these hedge funds have billions of dollars. Now, they're not putting it all in one stock, but they have the ability to take some of these smaller stocks and take the opposite side of a trade and push things around and manipulate. I'm calling it manipulate, whatever you want to call it. They have so much more buying power than we do, as you guys know, that it's hard to compete with them, and it causes irrational things to happen in the short term. So you always learn, the stock market is efficient. It's very efficient, but it's really not efficient at all. Most stocks in the stock market are not priced properly, in my opinion. And that is either because somebody's playing them up or down. So you got to be careful and know where a stock is in its cycle.
Yeah, that's a good one. What cycle? Real quick, what are you thinking, when we see Bitcoin hopefully here, hopefully next month at 100K, where do you think percentage of how much you think the upside is going to be on these miners? And also, do you want to tell people you called the corporate headquarters of Bitfarms today, or no?
We'll talk about that after. Yes, we can talk about that because there's a lot of misinformation going around on Bitfarms. So I had to talk with them today. And
so what do you think? 100K, real quick. We go up to 100K. We going up 5%, 10%, 30%.
No, we should expect significant. Everything should double from here to 100%. Really, the Bitcoin miners, and it's not every single miner across the board because the valuations are different. So you got to know which ones you like and which ones are undervalued. Some of these are undervalued even just versus the other ones. So, everybody's got their own opinion on which the best ones are. To me, right now, these are not necessarily the best ones. The most underpriced ones, in my opinion, Bitfarms is very underpriced. Riot is very underpriced. So if you ask me which one's a better company, Marathon or Riot, I think Marathon has executed a lot better this year. They've set themselves up in a way that Riot has not. But currently, they both do just about the exact same amount of Bitcoin mining. In fact, Riot mined more than Marathon did in September. So, and they're probably going to do that again in October. Now,
really,
6 months from now, Marathon may be crushing them in the number of Bitcoins mined.
So there was some rumblings out there, and I'm going to put you on the spot on this one because we were talking about this recently, and it's Tether. Can you explain to me, and I want people to kind of understand that one. There's a cryptocurrency out there that we think is going to cause a little ripple effect when it gets out of what's going on. Can you elaborate a little?
Well, I'll talk about what I know, but I will tell you, I am not very knowledgeable on. So even though I focus on Bitcoin mining stocks, so in doing so, I have to focus on cryptocurrency to some extent, but it's not my main focus. I had always assumed that Tether was just what the word means, that it was tethered to the U.S. dollar on a one-to-one basis, and we were reading an article in Bloomberg that seemed to indicate that is not the case, and some people are worried that the assets that are underlying that are potentially in danger of unraveling, I'll just say. So
Tether, I think the website is tether.io. I think that's their website. Go and read if you have any relation to Tether and you have to use Tether as your stable coin. Read what it says under, what did they call it? Where they said, it's supposed to be backed 1-to-1 for the USD, right? And right now they found out that they had to rechange the formula of how they consider 1-to-1. They said they made some stable investments into some commercial properties. But here's the thing that got me, and this is what scares me, guys. And I know I'm going to rain on a lot of people's parade, but this is what's scaring me, is they have never been audited. And what that means, Tom, you can probably explain to us better than anybody else. What does that mean when you're audited?
I don't know what their process is.
Just explain to me what an audit is.
A typical audit would be from a third party, And oh, sorry, I want to address a question. We just got a super chat. How do you view the short interest in CleanSpark? Seems higher interest than other miners. When do you think that the short sellers will capitulate? So I have a CleanSpark is another one. I don't know if I mentioned it. I think they're still, even after they've had a big run up. I think almost a 50% run up, as hard as that is to believe, in the last month. But in my opinion, they are still wildly undervalued. They're misunderstood. They're undervalued. And, it's not the short interest to a point where there's going to be a short squeeze per se. But I do think that, by the end of the year, this is going to shake itself out. When Bitcoin breaks its all-time high, and I don't know, we may test around for a little while, but at some point, I'm expecting Bitcoin to go well beyond its all-time high. So at 80,000 or 100,000, I'm expecting at least a double in CleanSpark just from here to there. So,
Yeah,
and I don't think the short sellers are going to be interested in trying to pick that fight, because the thing is, the financial statements will come out shortly after that, and then it's game over.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what percentage of people are shorted in CleanSpark. I'm going to it right now. It's I don't even think that it's only this is as of 9:30. It's 11.5% short right now, and I don't think I guess that is kind of high.
Well, we're also
I'm telling you right now, this could be another Michael Bloom. He messed up again, huh?
A lot. We're so used to these crazy short numbers that, over 10% that's a lot of short interest in a stock, especially a stock that, I think it's super clear to me, and again, this is not financial advice, this is my opinion. It is super clear to me that CleanSpark is still way, way underpriced. Their market cap is less than half of what it was a year ago, before they even started mining Bitcoin. So if you watch one of my videos, their revenue is going to go up like 10,000% in the course of 2 years, and their stock price and market cap have gone down in that period. So this is going to correct itself. So thank you, M. Sailor. Thanks for the super chat and for your kind words.
Hey, you know what, Tom? You know what's also interesting about CleanSpark, and this is something Tom taught me, and trust me, I don't know nothing. He said that you can keep. Let's say they made all their money already on their short. They could leave it open even. I don't know what's happened to that, or they could just leave it open and not close it, and still shows up as a short position.
The problem is that you can't leave your short open if the stock is going up.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They're going to have to get out.
I told you I didn't know nothing.
They're going to it's just what he said. Basically, they're going to capitulate at some point. They're going to get pushed out of this as soon as they realize that, and I'm guessing they're already pretty much getting to that point. We're at $16.70. We were down near $10 just a month ago, so the shorts have already gotten beat up pretty good on this. Now, they might have shorted this at 45. Well, I think 42 was its all-time high. So it depends, what their average is, but at some point, as this goes up, either their profits are melting away, or, depending on when they shorted it, they're actually losing money now. So I expect this to be a short-term problem that fixes itself.
CleanSpark got up to 42. Was that before they issued more shares, or?
No, CleanSpark was at 42, I think, on January 8th, and I'm just doing that off the top of my head, so it's plus or minus a few days. And they really, at that point, January 8th. So at that point, they hadn't even mined, I think, just, 5 or 10 Bitcoin. They hadn't even started doing what they're doing. So yeah, they've issued more shares since then, but their market cap is significantly down. So even taking into account the dilution with the extra shares, their market cap is significantly down, and by any reasonable financial benchmark, these guys are performing by far better than they ever have, in my opinion.
And they're lower than they were. That's crazy.
So that's why I think that's what I'm saying. The market, that whole the market's efficient thing is that it doesn't hold water for me. This stock, at $10, and if you guys watch my videos, I was pretty adamant that price was ridiculous. So there was no sense to that, and this is not the only stock that behaves like that. So sometimes, between the combination of short interest and misinformation, and a lot of it is that even retail investors oftentimes have weak hands and sell based on information that's just not accurate.
And you bring up a really interesting point, because there is another famous YouTuber. I gotta meet somebody. I forgot his name. Meet Tom, Joe, Fred, Kevin. Meet Kevin. What in the world was he talking? He did this quick video over this past weekend, and he brought up Bitcoin mining, and the whole thing was Bitcoin mining.
It was about the Bitcoin miners.
And then how he was saying that you should only invest in a one-to-one relationship on what the value of Bitcoin is. I don't know. Explain to me how dumb that statement is, I guess.
Those are your words.
Yeah, well, stupid then.
No, stupid.
Idiotic?
None.
Moronic? Kevin, what's going on?
I don't know if you guys know Meet Kevin. He's got like 1.7 million viewers, so he's very popular, and I watch him all the time, and I enjoy his show. He did an analysis on the Bitcoin miners over this weekend that I felt was not,
in my opinion, by the way.
Let's just say that.
No,
and he came to the conclusion that the best way, and it's not right or wrong. I think he was looking at things the wrong way. I think he was trying to determine what's the best way to play the actual Bitcoin asset. So what he was doing was comparing the amount of Bitcoin companies had on their balance sheet and using that as the only indicator as to what their value was as a play on Bitcoin. So obviously, as a result of that, MicroStrategy is a one-to-one play on Bitcoin. That's all they do, is they buy Bitcoin. It's actually better than a one-to-one play because they borrow money and buy Bitcoin. So even that's leveraged. But to me, all of the Bitcoin miners are a significantly better investment than if you're going to buy MicroStrategy, and that's fine if you do, but you might as well just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, really, you might as well. So, explain to me how a company works then, Tom. So should you not give value on anything like miners? I mean, the actual equipment, that's worth nothing, right? When you're coming to look at a valuation of a company, how much hash rate you have, should that be nothing too?
No, those are all, and obviously the whole point of this sector is that, when a MicroStrategy goes and buys Bitcoin, they buy it at the spot price. They buy it at market value. Bitcoin miners are able to get Bitcoin at, radically reduced rates. So, whether they pay between electricity and then you got to count depreciation on the machines, but they're still at 60, 70, 80, some of them more than 80% gross profit margin. So, and that's your business model. So he was taking a partial balance sheet approach versus a full approach to all of the assets on your balance sheet. And you've got to pay attention to the income and profitability. These guys are all going to be the ones that I have on my list on the side here, especially the first 5 or 6, I'm pretty confident are going to be highly profitable companies. And their profits have only just begun. You can see they're multiplying their hash rate drastically, all of these companies.
So that's a good thing?
Yeah, that's a very good thing. At the same time, we kind of, in North America, we kind of got lucky here. China totally changed their policy and pulled the rug out on all of their Bitcoin miners, or I'll say most of their Bitcoin miners. And that drastically reduced the overall worldwide hash rate. So the difficulty level went way down. At the same time, Bitfarms, Hedge, Cleanspark, Marathon, Riot, Hive, these guys all have big contracts to buy tens of thousands of new machines, and they're buying the new 100 terahash or better machines And, there's going to be a shift. North America will probably have, half the world's hash rate or more.
That's crazy.
And that's all going to happen in, 12 to 18 months, starting a few months ago.
So BTBT, I don't know if anybody said anything about BTBT. One of the things that still happened with BTBT, and I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, some of their miners, so what they did is they had to close down their Chinese operation and bring it over here to the United States or Canada. One of the two. I don't know. Maybe they went to both. I don't know.
And a couple other countries around the world.
And some of their machines, they disappeared. And so people are still, I think, a little skittish about BTBT right now because it should be worth so much more. I don't know. Do you agree or disagree? Or
I think that at $4, BTBT was a no-brainer. And my issue with BTBT is they need to get better at disclosing information and communicating with their shareholders. They don't do what most of the other miners have gotten on board, and monthly they give an operations update. What's their, how many miners did they get? How many miners are in transit? How many did they install? What was their active hash rate that month? How many Bitcoin did they mine that month? So when you're getting that kind of information monthly, you don't even really need to wait for the quarterly report to come out. You know what it's going to look like. So, unless there's some kind of wild surprise where they did something, that you don't know. I know, for instance, people were very angry at CleanSpark that there was a lot of bonuses given out. So I think that's one of the reasons this stock got beat down. But again, that was not, just financially speaking, that did not make any sense for the stock to lose value as a result of that. So
talk to me about, you spoke to Bitfarm. Who'd you speak to over there at Bitfarm?
So what I really wanted to do, and I already knew the answer to this, but every video I do, one of the main comments that I get, whether it's CleanSpark or Bitfarms, several of these guys are doing shelf offerings. So they're doing at the market offerings, and where they have the option to issue shares. So you guys are probably familiar with this. So Bitfarms and CleanSpark both have $500 million at the market shelf offerings. And the number one comment that I get every time I do a video is, oh, these guys are crazy diluting their stock, and they've issued this many shares or that many shares. And the truth is, when you're traded on the NASDAQ, you don't need to disclose, and they don't disclose the number of shares that they've issued. So they can issue them at the market rate. They can just sell new shares. That's what a shelf offering is. So they've gone in and authorized themselves to sell $500 million worth of shares over the next 2 years. Now, they've authorized themselves to do that. That doesn't mean they have to do that. I would be shocked if Bitfarms uses all $500 million of that shelf offering. And my guess is they've used almost none of it right now. But that's one of the things I'm talking about with retail investors. Bitfarms is mainly held down because all the retail investors think that they went and grabbed $500 million, and I don't know what everybody thinks they did with it, but it's just not a likely scenario. Uncertainty is not good, so I understand a little bit of suppression in the stock, but Bitfarms, in their SEC filing, which I did a video, you guys don't have to go read all that. I did a video and I read it line by line exactly what and when they're going to spend the money. So none of it's wasted, and they don't need it all. So they're at $5.68, I think, due in large part to the fact that people think there's, another 100 million shares of stock out there, or whatever the number may be. I can't remember how many they have issued. So, and the same thing with CleanSpark.
So I have one quick question. can they buy stock back too, or do they have to tell you when they buy it back, or can they go back and forth?
They have to tell you if they're doing a stock buyback, which they're not doing. And you would never have an at the market offering and do a stock buyback at the same time.
I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's so you're doing one or the other. Either you're cash rich and you think your stock is underpriced, so you're buying it back, which should raise the price of your stock, or you need cash. And as everybody knows, the mining business, these guys need cash. So I'll tell you what happened with CleanSpark, and this is if you watch my video, I kind of summarized this. Here's what they did, because everybody is convinced their stock was beaten down to like $10 or $11. So what they did is they went out and bought 4,500 machines, and they used their Bitcoin to buy it. Now, most people don't like these Bitcoin companies using their Bitcoin to buy things, but their point was, look, we're not just money grabbing our shelf offering, and we're not going to issue stock at $11 off the shelf. We will buy these machines with our Bitcoin before we do that. So, most of the management of these companies are highly invested in shares of stock. They don't want to dilute their stock and ruin it. So, and they have an obligation to the shareholders to use that money wisely. So, I don't think any of these companies have really dug into their... And Riot is in the same position. I think they might have a $600 million shelf offering.
So after this, the question was from LC. After this run with this Bitcoin, do you think there's going to be a little bit of pullback? What do you think? Should there be a multiplier at all on the price of these stocks should go up?
Well, I stand on the fact that most of the stocks on this list are nowhere near their 1 or 2 year price target. Everything. This is one of the most beat up sectors. There's a couple of beat up sectors, in my opinion, in the stock market. You've got high growth retail stocks that got just totally destroyed after February of this year. And really, almost this entire sector, all these Bitcoin miners, in my opinion, I don't want to say all the ones I've done a video on, pretty much, you'll see my conclusion is that they are way undervalued.
Way undervalued.
So, long-term...
Not financial advice.
These are all my opinions. My long-term price target on CleanSpark, it depends on what long-term means. I see them in the next 18 months getting back to, somewhere around $40. And there's a chance. A big piece of this puzzle is, what does Bitcoin run to? So I try to assume Bitcoin... I don't assume Bitcoin's going to 200,000 when I do my projections. We're at 60,000 right now. We're at 64,000. So, over the past few months, I've been assuming we stay healthy between $40,000 and $80,000. To me, that's all. Any of those prices work great. These miners make incredible money as long as Bitcoin is holding its value there. If they run up to $200, then you can see CleanSpark at $150. I mean, the sky's the limit. So that's a big piece of the equation that we don't know. But even just considering, I try to say, what if they don't go up? What if Bitcoin doesn't go up at all from here? Well, then I still see CleanSpark getting up to $40, even at Bitcoin 64,000.
So just so you know, the whales I talked to, they told me they're going to push it to 65 for us here. When I was out fishing, I was talking to some whales, and they said, dude, I'm going to push Bitcoin. You're going to see it on your stream. You're going to see it. Watch it. So I don't know if I'm just talking to the fish or if I'm talking to the people that hold Bitcoin.
So also the other part of that, LC, thanks for the question. The answer to the end of that is, I don't really think a bear market is coming. I think that the cryptocurrency market has matured, and I should clarify, that doesn't mean there's never going to be a downturn in the market. So from a technical standpoint, by the definition of a bear market, there will be some bear markets. I don't think there's a crypto winter coming. I don't think we're going to shift into a scenario where, we have 50, 60, 70% pullbacks anymore. I think those days are over. It's still very volatile. You know, even Bitcoin, which is the monster, is still highly volatile. So I'm not saying it's not volatile, and there may be times where it has a 10 or 20% pullback, maybe even worse. But I don't think we're in for this 2 or 3 year crypto winter where, you know, it's like it's in hibernation. There's just too much. The nature of what Bitcoin is has changed since the last 2 cycles, in my opinion.
I think it's going down. I always think it's going down. But yeah, so many other people got into it. But I always think it's going down. I always think, why would anybody, you know, put value in something, but then why do we put value in the dollar? That's the fool's gold, right? The American dollar, or even I guess you could say the Canadian dollar. I don't know anything about Canada, but I would imagine it's the same scenario where it's just upside down with all fiat money.
There's always going to be fiat money.
Right.
And I know everybody does their analysis. Well, you lose this much money by holding fiat money, but it's going to be maybe there's a world someday that's all cryptocurrency, but we're not. Let's put it this way. The entire crypto market all put together is $2.5 trillion. That's about the market cap of Apple, to put it in perspective. So, you know, it's
one company that's traded on, right?
Right. That's one company. So, you know, it's still a very, very small piece of our financial ecosystem. It's growing. It's growing massively. I think it's hit critical mass. I think there's no going back. So all of that is good. And that's why I think there's so much room left in this bull run. And again, I think we're going to have a bull run and then maybe have some normal pullbacks like you see more. It will act more like the stock market, in my opinion.
So what does the ETF do that they just came out with supposedly today? And what is this all about, the future ETF of Bitcoin or future of Bitcoin?
So this ETF is a little bit of a fake out, in my opinion. This ETF is trading Bitcoin futures, which is not the same as a Bitcoin ETF. So, you know, I don't know if today's bump was because an ETF came out or not, but technically speaking, as a result of the ETF that came out today, literally nobody ever has to buy a Bitcoin. So there's it's all based on derivative products. So what I think what we're all really waiting for is an actual Bitcoin ETF where they have to physically buy and hold the Bitcoin based on the amount of people investing into the ETF. When that happens, that will have a drastic, once they're buying Bitcoin, now you're changing the supply, because you're going to have an ETF and it's unlikely, you know, those will only ever get bigger. So as they buy Bitcoin, more and more of the Bitcoin supply will leave the pool of Bitcoin available, and that's just going to drive up the price of Bitcoin. I think that's when we see a hyper run in Bitcoin. This ETF, to me, I think is just as likely to increase or decrease the price of. It's really just a hedge.
Just a hedge. Just a hedge. Well, I got nothing really. Somebody asked another question, which was, where would you hold most, which miners would you hold over a year? I think almost, unless you need the money.
I mean, the ones that I have long-term, the ones that have disclosed plans and seem to be executing their plans, I think Bitfarms, Hut 8, Cleanspark, Marathon, Riot, and Hive. To me, those are the, and you know, that seems like the whole list, but there's a lot of other ones past that. All those guys have very solid plans that if they execute their plans, their share price should continue to rise indefinitely. So that, however, having said that, I have some oversized positions in the ones that I think are undervalued. You know, Riot used to have a market cap, you know, just a few months ago, Riot had a market cap bigger than Marathon, and now it's almost to the point where it's half the size of Marathon. And they have the same hash rate. So Riot's going to do some catching up. Now, Marathon has some other things going for it, and I think that does make them a more valuable company. All right, I just want to... We got a super chat, so I just want to address that. Which miners have the most upside? So
10x Riot. Sorry, that was somebody else.
So to me, my 3 oversized positions right now are Bitfarms, and that's the one to me that has the most upside. CleanSpark also I think has a lot of upside, and it's funny, I just really entered into my Riot position recently. 6 months ago, I felt like Marathon was a much better investment than Riot was, but Marathon's had a great run. I mean, they're at $54 while Riot's still at 30.
I'm going to give you 3. Can I give you 3? Because they're going to blow you away.
All right, I got one more, but go ahead. You give your 3.
You only get 3. What do you want another one for? You only get 3.
All right, well, then that's it.
Okay,
my 3 are up. What's your 3?
And I'm going to do totally different. I'm going with DigiHost. Because I still think DigiHost, they're, just so you guys know, and just anything I say, Tom said it to me because I'm not smart enough to do any research. DigiHost is going to do a reverse split at some point in time. So I would imagine their stock, so they didn't say how many shares, did they yet?
They're going to do a 3-to-1 reverse stock split in preparation for uplisting to the NASDAQ. So that's really the big news. If they can get themselves on the NASDAQ, their liquidity goes through the roof. That was the 4th one I was going to mention.
Oh, stop it.
Well, I don't mention it because right now in the United States, it's over the counter. So if you're listening from Canada, you can buy that straight on the exchange. In the United States, at the moment, you have to buy that over the counter. And I know a lot of people use, Robinhood or WeBull, and so they don't even have access to the over-the-counter stocks.
And I'm going with another one, which is a company that Tom turned me on to, and he told me the day, and I'll never forget it because I bought it. It's the first time I 3x'd anything, and that was Lux. I'm going with Lux is going to do extremely, extremely well. Can you explain to us a little bit about Lux?
I don't even have them on my list. I try to get everything under $100 million market cap. I don't really talk about, and I don't do videos on because they're so unbelievably volatile. Like Lux could triple and then, get cut into a third the next 2 weeks later. So,
but Lux, they uplisted on the German stock market.
Yes.
And that they just went nuts again today. And they were around, I don't know, 78 cents, I think is what it was. And then my 3rd one's CleanSpark, just so you know. I love CleanSpark. Oh, and that was something that somebody said in there and that we don't talk about enough, is CleanSpark actually developed a new program to be more efficient on energy. And I think they have a higher hash rate on these to over amp them or something like that. I don't know what that means, but
they can overclock, and all of these companies have different technologies. CleanSpark is obviously in that business, and I think they hope to, somebody asked me earlier, have they done a proof of concept? I think they need to show. They have not presented that to the marketplace yet, and I don't know if they're talking to other Bitcoin miners directly yet or not, but I'm sure it is their intention to, because some of the other things they've done with other companies have created massive energy efficiency. So if they're able to convert that onto their own Bitcoin miners, then I don't see why everybody else wouldn't follow, even though they're the competition. If their technology is going to improve, it's all about hash rate. If these guys can get better hash rate out of their machines, they're doing it.
Hey, before we close, I just M Sailing had one question. Do you think it's better to sell the miners or sell Bitcoin? If you need some cheddar in the pocket.
As an individual investor?
Yeah. What do you think is going to go up, more?
I think that the miners are a leveraged play on Bitcoin. So to me, over time, like today was a strange trading day. A lot of these miners did not go up as much as Bitcoin went up. But if you look at the formula in the long term, this should be a leveraged play on Bitcoin. So the miners should outpace Bitcoin over the course of a long period of time. Given the volatility and all the other factors that are going on, some of them have not done that yet, But to me, that just means there's more upside ahead. NCS, you're in Canada and you bought a bunch of DigiHost. I actually have, and I have to buy it over the counter, but it's one of my biggest positions. I only didn't mention it just because in the U.S., it's hard to buy.
It ain't hard to buy. Lux is hard to buy. You had to call up the 800 number. Hey, I want to order some of this. Sir, there's not that many.
LC brings up a good point. I'm saying there's not going to be a big pullback, but right in the middle of our bull run, we had a 60% pullback. So,
yeah, but do you think that was more market manipulation than anything, so they could leverage their positions?
This is only my guess, but I think that was the last grasp. That was a massive push down so that institutions could start getting involved in this. They got in late. They were the last ones in. They're usually the first ones in. Well, retail investors were in way before. So, but you never know. I mean, it's a fair point. We just this year had a 60% pullback. All right, I got Grayson. What do you think BTBT will go to? So BTBT, I think if they can get some better information out, they've been trading back and forth. They're more volatile than all the other stocks that I talk about. But I do think they have an upside of 20. So I've been a little bit scared. They're in the neutral zone is the way I like to look at them right now. In this $10 or $11 or $12 range, and thanks for the super chat, by the way. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's almost like, which way are they going to break? Are they going to go retest their lows before they go high? Probably not. I mean, everything is bullish right now. So it looks, they were just at 20. So I think they could very easily get to 20 again.
So right now you're saying you don't back the bus up and buy as much as you possibly can. You just say...
Right, I wouldn't be all in because it's a more volatile stock. But if you were to put me on the spot and say which way you think it's going, up or down, we're in a bull cycle. I think Bitcoin's going to keep going up, and I think Bit Digital will go up with it as a result. And like I said, if they could just get some more information out to people, and I think they're regrouping. They much more so had to regroup than all the other miners. And I think when they're done with that, they made a big deal with DigiHost. So with 2 exahash worth of mining equipment. So I think when that's all set up, I think we're going to see a lot more information out of them. And that's going to help their stock price.
And Mernt's cool Bitcoin.
That's exactly right, LC. So that's some of the technology, and if we go back to Meet Kevin, he was saying, there's no research and development, there's no intellectual property, but that's the kind of stuff. The first industrial scale immersion cooled Bitcoin mining operation. So, that's another attempt to reduce the cost to mine Bitcoin. And I think it seems like it's going to be a highly effective thing. So,
what do you? And didn't you say that they're coming out with another bigger hash rate or something crazy? Like there was a Cypress, I think you said there's a new machine that's getting ready to hit the market.
Cypher is getting a new machine, and I think it was 195 terahash. Which is monstrous. But having said that, it was no more energy efficient than the S19Js are. So it was twice as powerful, but it took up twice as much energy. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But these machines just keep getting bigger and bigger. And I expect that the next, 195 terahash machine will be more efficient than this. The efficiency has already gone up from machine to machine every time. It keeps getting more energy efficient. And all of these, the massive pressure put on to these companies to go green, they're all switching to greener methods, and obviously their equation is the cheapest electricity they can get because that's their only cost. They got to buy machines, they got to maintain the machines, and electricity is their direct cost of sales. So
That's their only cost, huh?
right, they're incentivized to. Obviously, that's where the innovation comes in this industry. And without getting into what could be a whole nother conversation, a lot of the energy that the Bitcoin miners use actually make the energy companies a lot more efficient. So there's some give and take here that the conversation about Bitcoin miners are evil is a little contrived in my opinion. It's way, way overblown. They're probably one of the greenest industries there is, first of all. And, they don't. There's an awful lot of things. The regular financial system uses significantly more energy than the Bitcoin mining system. So,
And I mean, not even to say anything about like making cars and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure it takes
making cars, the one everybody uses is Christmas lights.
right.
It doesn't use as much energy as Christmas lights do. So.
Oh, really? It doesn't? Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. So that's pretty much it. Can you think of anything else, Tom, or are you good?
Let's just go.
We were hoping it to see 65,
I'm
but it
gonna
doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Well, at least this candle is green, so I just brought up the Bitcoin chart. We're at 64,238. Yeah, we thought maybe we would get lucky and do a live stream and break through. So for those of you who saw my video this morning, this purple line lasted like an hour, so I guess that one's gone. So the next line is our all-time high, and then there's really no resistance above that. So
what you're saying, if it hits it tonight, we got to go back live, is what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Come on, Tom.
I'm not promising that. I don't think anybody wants to watch me at 2 o'clock in the morning talk about Bitcoin. But
I'll do it.
But I'll be back tomorrow.
It only happens every once in a while.
I want to thank everybody that did a super chat. I also just want to thank everybody that asked a question.
Real quick. Yeah, because we did say something about the conversation with Bitfarms. You kind of touched on it.
I don't.
He's going to do a video on it.
Well, and I don't want to. I had a conversation with them. They would not confirm because they can't confirm how much of their over-the-counter shelf offering or at the market they've used. But I had a nice talk with someone in their investor relations, and they went through the SEC filing with me, which I had already read. And they pretty much just confirmed. I wanted to, I'm just a person too. So, I used to be a CPA, and I'm not anymore. That was a long, long time ago. So I'm pretty proficient at reading these documents and all that. But I just wanted to talk straight with them directly and make sure I was understanding all of this accurately, because this is what I'm talking about with misinformation. I had enough people questioning me that I actually called Bitfarms to make sure I was understanding this correctly. So no, if somebody tells you they know how many shares of stock Bitfarm has issued, they don't, because that information, now, you do find that out with all the companies. You will find that out quarterly when they do their 10Q. So that is coming up actually in like the first or second week of November, I'm guessing, for all the Bitcoin miners. They will do their quarterly report for what for most of them is the third quarter of 2021. And in that, then they have to disclose the number of shares outstanding. So that's typically when you get that update. And since that is the number one thing that's been holding back the price of Bitcoin, I just wanted to be able with absolute certainty to say, no, anybody that tells you they've issued X number of shares, they don't know.
And real quick, just so you guys all know, Tom is like one of those people that doesn't ever sleep. Literally, he probably sleeps like 3 or 4 hours a night. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do, because if he gets something in the middle of the night, he can just say, hey, this is what's getting ready to happen. Little things that start to affect the more mature markets are like your power outage, right? If you all of a sudden lose power, they have a big storm up in Canada and DigiHost goes down. That's going to affect them because they're not going to be mining any Bitcoin. Or
And Marathon has had some situations where they've had to take, several of them have had situations where they've had to take machines offline, whether it's to move them to a better facility, and it has impacted their hash rate, and you see some oddball numbers every once in a while when you get the monthly mining updates. Last month was one of those months for Marathon. I think they mined 340 Bitcoin, which didn't make any sense based on their hash rate.
Well, hey, thanks for watching, guys. And if we go, hey, will you go live in the morning if it is at 65?
Yes, if we break our all-time record, we'll go live.
Okay, great.
We'll try and give everybody a heads up first, though, so that it's just not in 1 second.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.